The air in the lab always smelled faintly of ozone and old coffee. Lena didn't mind it. It was the smell of progress of late nights spent hunched over glowing screens. She pushed a stray curl of dark hair out of her eyes, adjusting her glasses as she stared at the main monitor. Her Project Melody was humming along literally and figuratively. Melody wasn't a robot you could talk to. Not in the way sci-fi movies imagined. It was an advanced AI, designed for deep audio analysis. Purpose was to find patterns in sound, not just notes and rhythms, but the subtle, almost imperceptible nuances that human ears often miss. They'd fed everything from whale songs to classical symphonies, trying to refine its algorithm. Today, Melody was chewing through a colossal discated, the entire recorded discography of Elvis Presley. Every studio album, every live performance, every demo, every outtake. Millions of data points, all funneling into Melody's digital brain. Anything interesting, Lena? Dr. Thorne's voice was a low rumble from behind her. He was a man who looked like he'd been carved from a block of granite sharp edges, but a kind light in his eyes. He was her mentor, the head of the lab, and perpetually skeptical until proven otherwise. Lena turned slightly, a small smile playing on her lips. Just finished ingesting the 68 comeback special. Melody's processing the vocal inflections. Now, it's fascinating how much detail you can pull out. His vocal range was incredible. Indeed, Dr. Thorne said, sipping from his chipped, world's best professor mug. But are we getting closer to our core objective? Can Melody truly differentiate between genuine emotion and performance art? That's the real challenge. We're getting there, Lena replied, turning back to the screen. Melody was displaying complex spectrograms, waveforms, and a dizzying array of data points. Suddenly, a red flag popped up on a secondary monitor, one reserved for anomalous data. Lena frowned. It wasn't an error message, just a notification, pattern, Huh, she murmured, leaning closer. The pattern wasn't in the usual places. It wasn't a repeated lyric or a common chord progression. It was something far more subtle. A tiny, almost unnoticeable fluctuation in pitch, consistently appearing for a fraction of a second, then disappearing, only to reappear later. In a completely different song, it was like a faint, digital fingerprint. She clicked on the alert. Pattern was a minuscule dip, then a rise in frequency almost too fast for the human ear to consciously register. It occurred not just in the singing, but sometimes in the very beginning of a guitar strum or the fading echo of a drum beat. It was like background noise, but incredibly precise and repeatable. Melody, cross, Respenner, Avon O'Reilly. It spanned years, different albums, different producers, different backing musicians. It was in his earliest Sun Records tracks and his later Vegas performances. That's odd, Dr. Thorne said, his voice losing its usual detached academic tone. He stepped closer, peering over Lena's shoulder. It's too consistent to be random noise. But what is it? It's not a musical note in the traditional sense, Lena mused, her brow furrowed in concentration. It's almost like a signature, like someone adding a tiny hidden watermark to every piece of their work. A watermark? Dr. Thorne scoffed gently. Elvis Presley, embedding a hidden watermark in his songs. For what purpose? To prove he sang them? We have plenty of documentation for that. No, not to prove he sang them, Lena clarified. Already thinking ahead. But what if it's a message, a private signal, that only someone looking very closely would ever find? Dr. Thorne considered this, rubbing his chin. A fascinating hypothesis, Lena, but highly improbable. Artists often have unconscious tics, vocal habits. It's not just vocal, Lena countered, pointing at the screen. Look, here it is, in the bass line of Hound Dog. Wait, no, not the trumpet. It's just after the trumpet fades, and here, in the sustained note of a piano in Can't Help Falling in Love, it's everywhere, too precise for a tick. It's almost placed. She isolated the pattern again. It was so fleeting, so minuscule. Lena tried to repeat it manually with her voice making a tiny, almost imperceptible sound. It felt intentional. Run a frequency analysis on it, Dr. Thorne instructed, his skepticism still present, but now tinged with genuine curiosity. See if it correlates with anything known. Lena typed in the command. Melody, word, processing the tiny fragment of sound, comparing it to known frequencies, human speech patterns, anything. The results came back negative. No known correlation. See? Just data noise. An oversensitive eye picking up on something meaningless. But it's consistent, Lena insisted, ignoring his dismissal. It appears in different instruments, different vocal styles, different recording studios. How can that be random? She felt a growing excitement, a prickle of intuition. This wasn't just noise. It was too deliberate. She pulled up the raw audio file for one of the flagged songs, Heartbreak Hotel. She focused on the exact microsecond where melody detected the pattern. She played it back, slowing it down to an excruciating crawl. At first, she heard nothing. Then, with her headphones on volume cranked, she caught it. A brief, almost imperceptible thump-tap. It was so fast, so quiet. It blended into the static of the old recording. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, eyes wide. Dr. Thorne leaned closer. "Hear what, Lena?" A faint click. "Old recording equipment makes those all the time." No, it's not a click. It's a specific sound. Two very quick, faint beats, like a heartbeat, but much faster. Thump-tap. She played it again. Thump-tap. She nodded. It's there. It's always there in some form, in these flagged instances. She looked at the screen again. The pattern? Alpha 7 Omega? Thump-tap. It didn't sound like a musical note. It sounded like something else. Entirely. Something deliberate. "This isn't noise, Dr. Thorne," Lena said, her voice filled with a quiet conviction. "This is a signal, and I think Elvis Presley put it there." Dr. Thorne straightened up, a thoughtful expression on his face. He still looked skeptical, but his gaze was fixed on the screen, on the tiny, persistent anomaly. The hum of the servers filled the silence. Lena knew she had a long night ahead of her. This was just the beginning. She had a hunch, a strong one, that she had just stumbled upon a secret, whispered across decades. A secret hidden in plain sight, waiting for an AI, and a very curious human to finally hear it. She felt a shiver of anticipation. What could the king possibly have wanted to say so secretly for so long? Lena spent the next few days in a haze of caffeine and data. Dr. Thorne, true to his nature, remained unconvinced, though his interest was undeniably piqued. He allowed Lena to relocate some of Melody's processing power to her pet project, as he called it, but advised her not to get too fixated on a ghost in the machine. "Human brains are wired for pattern recognition," he'd reminded her. "Sometimes we see patterns where there are none, especially when we're looking for them." Lena knew that. She'd spent enough time in this field to be aware of confirmation bias, but this felt different. The consistency of the thump-tap pattern, as she'd mentally labeled it, was too perfect. It wasn't a vague, shifting anomaly. It was a precise, repeatable event. She started by isolating every instance of the thump-tap. Across every Elvis song Melody had flagged, there were thousands. She then began the painstaking process of manually listening to each one with high-fidelity headphones at various speeds. It was agonizingly slow, like sifting sand for individual grains of gold. What she found surprised her. The thump-tap wasn't always identical. Sometimes it was sharper, sometimes softer, sometimes it was embedded so deeply in the music it was almost swallowed. But the fundamental rhythm, that quick thump-tap, was always there. It wasn't a vocal sound, it wasn't a drum beat, it was something else. "Sounds like a finger tapping," Lena mused aloud one afternoon, playing a snippet from Jailhouse Rock for herself. The song was loud, energetic, full of driving rhythm, but there, right before Elvis's second verse, almost buried under the crackle of the old recording, was the faint thump-tap. It was more like a fingernail on wood or a very light touch on a guitar body. Her mind raced. What if it wasn't a vocal tick or an instrumental part? What if it was something Elvis himself was doing, subtly, unknowingly during his performances or recordings? But then, why would it be so consistent across different studios and instruments, unless it was intentional? Lena began to group the instances of the thump-tap by release date. She created a timeline, noting which songs contained the pattern, and when they were recorded, a curious trend emerged. The pattern was present from his earliest recordings in the mid-50s, continuing consistently through the early 60s, then becoming slightly less frequent during his movie years, only to resurface with renewed vigor during the '68 comeback special. It's almost like it was more prominent when he was more himself, Lena thought, looking at the data. The movie years were famously restrictive for Elvis, often involving pre-recorded tracks and less creative freedom. But when he was truly performing, truly pouring himself into the music, the thump-tap seemed to appear more often. She then decided to explore other factors. What if the pattern was linked to certain emotions in the songs? She pulled up the lyrics and used Melody's advanced sentiment analysis algorithm to categorize the emotional tone of each song: joy, sadness, love, heartbreak, rebellion. There was no clear correlation. The thump-tap appeared in upbeat anthems and heartbreaking ballads alike. Okay, so it's not emotion, not a specific instrument, Lena mumbled to herself, her brow furrowed. It's not a common musical phrase, it's a tiny, deliberate sound. But why, and what does it mean? She started listening to interviews with Elvis, documentaries about his recording process. She looked for anything unusual, any habit he might have had. Did he tap his foot, snap his fingers? None of the anecdotes mentioned anything so specific and consistent. Then she had an idea. What if the pattern was not about what the sound was, but where it was placed? What if its position within the song held the key? She went back to melody. Melody, for every instance of alpha 7 omega, identify the precise millisecond of its occurrence and correlated with the nearest vocal syllable or instrumental onset. She commanded. The AI worked quickly. For example, in Blue Suede Shoes, the thump-tap appeared exactly 0.2 seconds after Elvis sang the word shoes. In Love Me Tender, it was 0.15 seconds after the word tender. That's it, Lena gasped, sitting upright. It's a rhythmic placement. She started humming, trying to feel the rhythm. Shoes thump-tap, tender thump-tap. It wasn't a random placement. It was always after a specific word or phrase or instrumental break. It was like a very subtle musical punctuation mark. But what kind of punctuation? She pulled up the lyrics to Heartbreak Hotel again, where she'd first heard the distinct thump-tap. The sound occurred just after the line, "Well, they'll be lonely, baby, and they'll be sad." Then the thump-tap, she tried another song, Jailhouse Rock. The sound came after. Everybody in the whole cell block was dancing to the Jailhouse Rock. Thump-tap was consistently appearing at the end of a thought or a phrase or a musical section. It was like an almost imperceptible period or exclamation mark, but a very specific one. Lena's heart began to beat a little faster. This wasn't just a random noise. It was just a random. She replayed several instances, closing her eyes, trying to imagine Elvis in the studio. Was he tapping his foot? His finger? Was it a subtle cough? No, it was too precise. And the sound itself was too specific. That distinct thump-tap, then a thought so simple yet profound hit her. What if the thump-tap wasn't a sound at all? What if it was a signal for a sound? She remembered a story her grandmother used to tell. Her grandmother had been an ardent Elvis fan, and she often spoke of how Elvis would sometimes subtly tap his ring on the microphone, or click his fingers as a way to cue his band, or add a personal touch to a live performances. But that was for live performances. Lena sat back staring at the screen, the data swirling before her eyes, the consistency, the placement, the subtle nature of the sound. This wasn't a tick, this wasn't a mistake, this was a message. A secret whisper, she murmured, a thrill running through her. Right there, hidden in the music all along. She knew Dr. Thorne would need more than a hunch. She needed to start translating this rhythmic placement into something meaningful. The task felt daunting, but also incredibly exciting. She had a feeling she was on the verge of discovering something truly remarkable. Something that would change how everyone saw Elvis Presley. Lena felt like a detective on a cold case. But instead of fingerprints, she had sound waves. And instead of a crime scene, she had a legend's entire musical output. The thump-tap pattern, now firmly established as Elvis's hidden marker, was her only clue. Her next step was to map out the marker's positions within the songs with extreme precision. Melody was invaluable for this. Lena instructed it to log the exact time signature, beat number, and lyrical content surrounding each marker. She hoped to find a pattern not just in where it occurred, but what words or musical phrases it punctuated. For days, she immersed herself. The lab became her second home. She subsisted on lukewarm coffee and the occasional takeout pizza. Dr. Thorne would sometimes poke his head in, offering a hesitant, "Any breakthroughs?" or a resigned, "Still chasing ghosts, Lena." Each time, Lena would just point to her growing charts and graphs, the lines of data slowly, almost imperceptibly aligning. What she discovered was that the thump-tap didn't always occur after a full sentence. Sometimes it was after a single word, sometimes a breath, sometimes it was almost imperceptibly nestled in a guitar solo or a drum fill. But always with that specific rhythmic signature of 2 quick, faint beats. It was almost like a very subtle repeated Morse code, but not with dots and dashes, but with presence and absence of this specific sound. What if the thump-tap signifies a particular emotion or thought? Lena pondered. She started categorizing the context of each marker. For example, in Hound Dog, the marker appeared after the line, "You ain't nothing but a hound dog crying all the time." In Suspicious Minds, it was after, "We're caught in a trap, I can't walk out." In Can't Help Falling in Love, it was after. Some things are meant to be. It seemed to highlight moments of vulnerability, truth, or profound emotion, but it wasn't just any emotional line. It was like Elvis was underlining specific phrases. Lena created a massive parabot. Column A, song title. Column B, taked of marker. Column C, surrounding lyrics, musical phrase. Column D, and when it did, the sequence of phrases it highlighted seemed to tell a micro-story within the song. She focused on a song that had a high frequency of the marker. Are You Lonesome Tonight? It was a ballad filled with longing. Melody had identified 10 distinct thump-taps in this song. She looked at the phrases highlighted. The stage is bare. My dear, tell me, darling, do you miss me tonight? My very own, my love, ever loved as true, your lonely heart tonight. It wasn't a sentence, but it felt like a series of fragmented thoughts. A direct address. But to whom? Lena recalled a story about the spoken word section in Are You Lonesome Tonight? Elvis famously messed up the lines in a live performance, breaking into laughter. It was often assumed he was just being playful, but what if there was more to it? What if the vulnerability of that spoken part was connected to his hidden markers? She cross-referenced the thump-tap data with Elvis's personal life timeline. She spent hours in the university library, poring over biographies, interviews, fan letters, anything that shed light on his emotional state during the recording of these songs. She found a recurring theme in his personal letters and interviews. his deep, lifelong grief over the loss of his mother, Gladys, who had passed away in 1958. Many biographers noted how her death profoundly affected him and how he often felt a sense of loneliness despite his fame. Could the message be for his mother? It certainly fit the theme of longing and unfulfilled connection. My dear, my love, do you miss me tonight? The sheer consistency across years, across varying musical styles, meant this wasn't a one-off. This was something he carried with him, something he infused into his art. Over and over again, Lena felt a powerful surge of emotion. This wasn't just a technical puzzle anymore. This was human. This was a son speaking to his lost mother, hiding his tender messages in plain sight within the very songs that brought him fame. It was a profound act of love and remembrance. Dr. Thorne, I think I'm onto something big, Lena called out, practically dragging her mentor to her screen when he finally passed by her desk later that evening. She pointed to the highlighted phrases from Are You Lonesome Tonight? And several other songs where the context seemed similarly poignant. Look at these lines where the marker appears. My true love, my only one. I'm always thinking of you. Dr. Thorne leaned in, his expression shifting from mild amusement to genuine fascination. These are very personal sentiments, Lena. But every singer expresses personal sentiments. How do you know this isn't just you projecting meaning? Because of the consistency, Dr. Thorne, Lena insisted, tapping the screen. Dr. Thorne repeated, a thoughtful look on his face. Interesting analogy. He paused, then looked at Lena. What do you propose next? How do we decode the language of these heartbeats? I think the markers are not just highlighting words, but creating a sequence, Lena said, her voice filled with quiet excitement. What if you extract all the phrases where the marker appears in chronological order of their recording, they form a larger coherent message like a secret diary spread across decades of music? Dr. Thorne's eyes widened slightly. That's ambitious, and if true, quite extraordinary. You're suggesting a puzzle that spans an entire career. Precisely. Lena nodded, a determined glint in her eyes. A message carefully, subtly woven into the very fabric of his legacy. A message that has waited for decades to be heard. The challenge was immense. The sheer volume of data overwhelming, but Lena felt a connection to this forgotten secret, a responsibility to unveil it. She had a new purpose, a new fire. She was no longer just an AI researcher. She was an archaeologist of sound digging for the buried heart of a legend. The idea of a chronological message, a secret diary hidden within Elvis's discography, consumed Lena. The technical challenge was immense. Melody had to precisely detect every single thump-tap down to the millisecond. Then, identify the surrounding lyrical or musical phrase, and finally, arrange these phrases in the exact order of their original recording. This meant delving into session notes, obscure fan encyclopedias, and historical record labels to verify recording dates. Dr. Thorne, now fully invested, assigned a small team of student assistants to help Lena with the laborious data entry and cross-reference. The lab whiteboard became a giant timeline, stretching from 1954 to 1977, with sticky notes indicating where each thump-tap appeared and what phrase it highlighted as the timeline grew. Sometimes there were simple words like home, forever, alone, or even just a sigh, or the fading note of a guitar, but strung together, they started to hint at something. It was like reading fragments of old letters, piecing together a story. Look at this, Lena said one morning, pointing to a sequence from the late 50s. After Blue Hawaii was recorded, the marker appeared after the word promise. A few months later, in a gospel recording, it was after My Prayer. Then, in a love song, after Always Yours. Promise my prayer, always yours, Dr. Thorne repeated slowly. It sounds like a vow. Exactly, Lena nodded. And it changes over time, my own way. wo, wa, become less frequent. The mark-eye. It was like reading Elvis's emotional journey through these hidden whispers. But Lena felt there was still something missing. The thump-tap itself. What was it? She had called it a heartbeat and a signature. But what did it physically represent? She went back to the raw audio, this time with a different approach. She isolated hundreds of instances of the thump-tap and ran them through a spectral analysis program, trying to identify the exact sound components. What she found was mind-blowing. The sound wasn't a vocal hum or a guitar string. It consistently had the resonance of a hollow object, like wood, combined with a faint metallic ring. A hollow object with a metallic ring? Lena murmured, trying to visualize it. A wooden guitar body with a ring tapping it, or a microphone stand. Then a memory surfaced, her grandmother's stories. He sometimes tapped his ring on the microphone. Lena pulled up images of Elvis performing and recording in the studio. She zoomed in on his hands, his microphones. Many photos showed him wearing large, distinctive rings. And the microphones of the era were often solid, metallic with thick stands. Could it be that simple? Elvis, habitually, subconsciously, or even consciously tapping his ring against the microphone or its stand. That would explain the consistent thump-tap sound, the metallic ring against the hollow microphone body, or the resonant stand. "It's a ring tap," Lena announced triumphantly to Dr. Thorne later that day. "It's a tap of his ring against the mic or the stand. That's the physical source of the sound." Dr. Thorne looked astonished. A physical habit embedded into the recordings. But for what purpose? A nervous tick? No. Lena shook her head vehemently. It's too deliberate in its placement. It's not continuous random tapping. It's precise, always after a significant phrase, and the number of taps varies too. Varies, Lena explained. It wasn't just a consistent sound, it was a rhythmic code. One tap, perhaps a pause, a subtle period, 2 taps, a short phrase, a specific emphasis, 3 taps. A strong exclamation, a deep truth. "This is getting serious, Lena," Dr. Thorne said, his voice hushed. "If this is a deliberate code, then Elvis was communicating something profound, something he couldn't say directly." They now had the alphabet of the message, the highlighted lyrical phrases, arranged chronologically, punctuated by the rhythmic ring taps. Lena felt an immense responsibility. This wasn't just about finding a hidden message anymore. It was about honoring Elvis's unspoken words. She imagined him in the studio, a young man, then a mature artist, standing before the microphone, pouring his heart into his songs, and in those quiet, almost imperceptible moments, adding a secret tap, a whisper from his soul. In the mid-60s, a period of perceived creative stagnation, the message segments became shorter, more fragmented, almost like he was struggling to find his voice. Lost, shadows, waiting. But then, after the '68 comeback special, when he regained his artistic fire, the messages became longer, more coherent, and full of raw power. "I believe my truth for you always." The ultimate question remained: who was the message for? Lena had initially thought his mother, but the evolving nature of the message suggested it might be for someone living, or someone yet to be born, someone who needed to hear his unfiltered truth beyond the fame and the showmanship. Lena pulled up a chart showing the overall emotional arc of the hidden messages. It started with longing and remembrance, moved through a period of struggle and doubt, and then crescendoed into themes of resilience, enduring love, and hope. It mirrored Elvis's own life journey, but from a deeply personal, internal perspective. It's not just for one person, Lena realized, a new thought forming. It's a message for anyone who truly listens, a universal message, but it was still hidden, veiled beneath decades of public perception. It was a message of authenticity, from a man who often felt trapped by his own image. The hidden message was no longer just a series of words. It was a narrative, a life story, told in hushed tones, moment by moment, song by song. Lena felt a deep connection to the man behind the legend, a sense of awe at his quiet genius, and an intense desire to bring his hidden words to light. The next step was to truly decipher the full sequence, to let the narrative emerge, complete and whole. The pieces were almost all in place. With the discovery of the ring taps as a coded punctuation system, the hidden message began to unfold with astonishing clarity. The thump-tap was not just a marker. It was a subtle form of emphasis, a way to add a period, an exclamation, or even a question mark to the highlighted phrase. Lena, with Dr. Thorne's now enthusiastic support, worked tirelessly. The whiteboard was filled with lines of text chronologically ordered, each segment accompanied by its corresponding ring tap punctuation. "Okay, so let's look at this sequence from the early 1960s, Lena explained to Dr. Thorne, pointing to a cluster of notes. "From GI Blues era, Alone. Then from a soundtrack song, Searching. Followed by For Truth. Then a short tap, again after Empty Room. Alone, Searching for Truth, Empty Room." Dr. Thorne read aloud, a somber tone in his voice. "That paints a rather melancholy picture, doesn't it?" "It does," Lena agreed. "And it mirrors what we know about his feelings during that time, the grind of the movies, the creative frustration. But then, as they moved into the late 60s and 70s, the message shifted dramatically from the '68 comeback special, I Believe. A strong triple tap. From a recording session shortly after, My Heart Is Open. From In the Ghetto. And I Know There Is Hope. From Suspicious Minds. For You. I'll Stay. And later, from his final years, My Love Will Lick Always. Piecing it all together, the fragments began to form a sprawling, heartfelt poem, an intimate confession spread across 2 decades. It wasn't a direct story, but a series of profound emotional declarations. It's telling us how he felt, what he yearned for, what he truly believed in beneath all the fame and the show business. Lena whispered, her eyes shining with emotion. The message wasn't addressed. "This is extraordinary, Lena. Truly extraordinary. It's a testament to the man, not just the performer." The full message, as they tentatively pieced it together, started with a sense of lost innocence and longing. "My dear, my true love, always with me alone, searching for truth, an empty room, lost in the shadows, wasting. Hope fades, my heart bleeds." Then, a shift mirroring his resurgence in the late 60s. "But I believe my strength is here. My voice is true. My heart is open for you. I am my truth. For you I'll stay, and I know there is hope." And finally, a message of enduring legacy and love. "My spirit will live. My love will shine forever, always for you. Listen, believe. My heart is yours. Tonight my message is heard. Always, always. Remember." The message was not just words, it was the story of his soul. It was a secret testament to his profound sensitivity, his spiritual depth, and his unwavering belief in love and connection. Even when his public life was tumultuous, Lena felt a deep connection to Elvis, not as the legendary king, but as a human being who had sought to communicate something vital beyond the roar of the crowds. It was a message of his authentic self. "It's about resilience," Lena said, her voice soft. "He went through so much, the pressures, the loneliness, but this message, these hidden words, show that his core remained intact. He never lost hope or his capacity for love." Dr. Thorne nodded slowly. "And the medium itself is brilliant, hiding it in plain sight in the very thing that made him famous. Only a machine looking at thousands of hours of audio with impartial precision could find it." The significance of the ring tap grew. It wasn't just a physical action. It was his literal fingerprint on his message, a tangible connection from his hand through the microphone into the sound wave and then carried through decades to be found. It was a physical manifestation of his emotional punctuation. They needed to verify every single instance. They went back through all of Melody's flagged occurrences, meticulously confirming the presence and type of the ring tap and the exact phrase it punctuated. They had to be absolutely sure. This was a discovery that would rewrite perceptions of an icon. "What do we do with this, Lena?" Dr. Thorne asked, the weight of the discovery settling upon him. "This is not just a scientific paper. This is history, a human story." Lena knew he was right. They couldn't just publish it as dry data. It needed to be presented with the reverence and understanding it deserved. This was Elvis's deepest secret, his most personal offering. "We need to share it respectfully," Lena said, looking out the lab window at the setting sun. "This is about honoring him, about showing the world the true heart of Elvis Presley, the man behind the myth. Maybe we contact the Presley estate, maybe a museum, but it has to be done carefully." The implications were vast. This discovery wasn't just about musicology or it was about legacy, about the hidden depths of human experience, and about how overwhelmed yet exhilarated she had found a whisper that had waited 50 years to be heard, and in doing so had found a profound purpose for her own work. The true Elvis was beginning to emerge, piece by hidden piece from the silence between the notes. The immediate aftermath of deciphering the core message was a mix of quiet awe and frantic verification. Lena and Dr. Thorne worked like obsessed archaeologists, sifting through every fragment, cross-referencing, re-listening, ensuring the accuracy of every word and every tap. The lab buzzed with a different kind of energy now. No longer just academic curiosity, but a profound sense of uncovering something sacred. Dr. Thorne, initially the skeptical scientist, was now Lena's most ardent supporter. His analytical mind saw the statistical impossibility of this pattern being random, and his academic integrity demanded thoroughness. But Lena could see the wonder in his eyes, the same emotional impact the message had on her. "This changes everything," Dr. Thorne murmured one evening, staring at the compiled text on the screen. "We always saw Elvis as this larger-than-life figure, almost superhuman. But this shows us his vulnerability, his very human struggles, and endearing hopes. It makes him relatable, in a way no biography ever could." While the early phrases seemed to hint at his mother, the later phrases were broader, more universal. "For you I'll stay, my heart is yours." These weren't specific to one person. "I think the message evolved," Lena suggested. "It might have started as a private connection to his lost mother, a way to keep her close, to keep communicating with her. But as he grew, and perhaps felt more isolated by his phone, a message of authenticity from a man who lived a life often dictated by others, a quiet act of defiance and self-expression. They spent weeks ensuring the integrity of their findings. Melody was retrained to identify the nuances of the ring taps with even greater precision. They ran blind tests, feeding it new Elvis songs and having it correctly identify the markers in their rhythm. The results were irrefutable. It was a beautiful, heartbreaking, and ultimately hopeful narrative. It revealed a deeply spiritual man, sensitive and introspective, who used his art as a conduit for his most profound inner thoughts. The gravity of their discovery weighed on Lena. This wasn't just a scientific paper. This was a piece of human history, a deeply personal testament from one of the most famous men in the world. How could they share it without trivializing it, without turning it into a sensational tabloid headline? "We need to approach the Presley estate," Dr. Thorne stated one afternoon, leaning back in his chair. "They deserve to know first." "This is their family's legacy," Lena agreed. The idea of contacting the people closest to Elvis filled her with both excitement and trepidation. Would they believe it? Would they dismiss it? Would they be angry? "We'll need to prepare a presentation," Lena said. "Something that explains the AI's process, the data, the audio evidence, but also the emotional significance. It has to be clear that this is a tribute, not an expose. They spent the next month crafting the perfect presentation. They compiled audio snippets where the ring taps were most clear. They created visuals of the spectrograms proving the consistent pattern. They summarized the chronological message, highlighting its emotional arc. Lena felt a personal connection to this project. Now, it wasn't just a job. It was a mission. She had spent countless hours listening to Elvis's music, not just as a fan, but as someone searching for his hidden heart. And she had found it. It was a privilege, a responsibility. The day came when they sent their preliminary findings and a request for a meeting to the estate. Lena's stomach was a flutter of nerves. This was the moment of truth. Would the world, and more importantly those who loved Elvis most, be ready to hear his secret whisper? The wait was agonizing. Lena found herself listening to Elvis's songs differently now, hearing the music not just for the melody and lyrics, but for the quiet, almost imperceptible thump taps that underscored his deepest feelings. The songs suddenly felt more alive, more profound, imbued with a new layer of meaning, a shared secret between her, the AI, and the king himself. The email from the Elvis Presley estate arrived 2 weeks later. It was formal, brief, and to the point. They were intrigued by the abstract. Lena and Dr. Thorne had sent and requested an in-person meeting in Memphis. Lena's heart leaped. They had dismissed it. They wanted to hear more. The flight to Memphis felt long, filled with Lena's nervous anticipation. Dr. Thorne was calm, his usual composed self, but Lena could sense his excitement bubbling just beneath the surface. This was big even for him. They were met at Graceland by Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis's daughter, and a few key members of the estate's management team. Lisa Marie, with her striking resemblance to her father, had an air of quiet dignity. Lena felt a wave of reverence. This was the family, the direct link to the man whose secrets she had inadvertently uncovered. The meeting took place in a quiet, formal room within the Graceland archives. Lena started the presentation, explaining Project Melody, the concept of deep audio analysis, and the initial detection of the Alpha 7 Omega pattern. She showed the data, the spectrograms, the overwhelming statistical evidence. Then she played the first audio snippet, slowed down, amplified. The distinct thump-tap of the ring against the microphone. Lisa Marie leaned forward, her eyes widening. That's his ring," Lisa Marie whispered, her voice tinged with surprise. "He always wore those big, heavy rings. He'd fidget with them sometimes." Lena felt a surge of relief, a direct confirmation from someone who knew him intimately. "We believe it's his ring, Ms. Presley, and we believe he used it to subtly punctuate certain phrases." Dr. Thorne then took over, explaining the deciphered ring tap code, the single, double, and triple taps, as a system of emphasis. Lena then presented the chronological message, phrase by phrase, starting from the earliest recordings. Lisa Marie listened intently, her expression shifting from curiosity to profound emotion. Her eyes welled up as Lena read the later phrases, particularly, "My love will live forever, always for you. Listen, believe my heart is yours. Tonight, my message is heard, always, always. Remember." When Lena finished, the room remained silent for a long moment. No one spoke. The weight of the words hung in the air. Finally, Lisa Marie broke the silence, her voice thick with emotion. He was always so private about his feelings. He poured so much into his music, but he held so much back personally. This is truly him." She wiped a tear from her eye. "It's like he's speaking to me, to all of us, saying the things he couldn't say directly." She looked at Lena, her gaze intense. "My father was a very spiritual man. He often talked about leaving something behind, something that would resonate beyond the songs, a deeper meaning." She paused. "I think this it. This is his final, most personal gift. Another estate member, a longtime archivist, spoke up. There were rumors, whispers, among some of the old studio musicians. They'd sometimes mention hearing a faint click or tap in the recordings, but they always dismissed it as equipment noise, because no human ear could discern the pattern across thousands of hours of audio with such precision, Dr. Thorne explained. Took an AI specifically designed to find these microscopic sonic anomalies. Lena felt a wave of vindication, but more importantly, a sense of rightness. This message, this truth was being received by the people who had the most profound right to it. Who do you think this message was for specifically? Lisa Marie asked, her voice softer now. We believe it began as a way for him to cope with the loss of his mother Gladys, Lena explained gently. A very personal, almost spiritual way to continue communicating with her. But as his life progressed, and he faced more loneliness, it makes so much sense. He always felt such a deep connection to people. Even when he was surrounded by thousands, he poured his soul out on stage. But there was all a part. They understood the profound significance of what Lena and Dr. Thorne had discovered. This wasn't just a scientific curiosity. It was a revelation of Elvis Presley's inner life, a posthumous letter from the king himself. We need to share this, Lisa Marie said firmly. The world needs to hear this, but it has to be done carefully, respectfully. This isn't about profit or sensationalism. This is about his legacy, about showing people the real Elvis. Her hunch, her long nights, her perseverance, it had all led to this. The message finally heard by its intended recipients was about to touch the hearts of millions. The secret whisper was about to become a global anthem of truth and connection. The agreement with the Presley estate was a partnership based on mutual respect and a shared desire to honor Elvis's legacy. Lisa Marie and her team were deeply moved by the discovery and wanted to ensure the message was unveiled to the world in a way that truly reflected its profound meaning. Lena and Dr. Thorne returned to the lab with renewed purpose. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity. They refined the presentation, creating an interactive exhibit model that would allow people to hear the ring taps themselves, see the data, and read the message as it unfolded chronologically. They worked with audio engineers to restore the original recordings, cleaning up the background noise so the faint ring taps could be heard with optimal clarity. The message itself, now fully confirmed and meticulously arranged, was a masterpiece of hidden emotion. Lena had spent countless hours with it, and each time it moved her. It wasn't flowery prose. It was raw, honest, and direct, a series of intimate confessions and enduring declarations. The message began with his early life, hints of his deep connection to his mother and his sense of destiny. My dear, my true love, always with me, my promise for you forever, often punctuated by a single or double tap, showing a quiet, heartfelt sincerity. As his fame exploded, the message reflected the overwhelming nature of his new reality, the isolation and longing amidst the adoration. Alone, searching for truth, an empty room lost in the shadows, waiting for a dream. Hope fades, my heart bleeds. These segments often had single taps, indicating a quiet, internal struggle. Then came the period of creative frustration during his movie years, a sense of being trapped, hinted at by the messages. The same, a trap forgotten. Where is my voice, my song, my truth? Short, clipped phrases, often with single taps, showing resignation or quiet despair. Then, the dramatic shift with his '68 comeback special, a surge of renewed purpose and defiant authenticity. But I believe my strength is here, my voice is true, my heart is open for you. I will stand always, here I am, my truth for you. I'll stay. And I know there is hope. These sections were punctuated with more frequent double and triple taps, signaling powerful conviction and passion. His final years, the Vegas residencies, saw a blend of resilience, longing, and a profound sense of his enduring connection to his fans and his art. My spirit will live, my love will shine forever, always, for you. Listen, believe, my heart is yours tonight. My message is heard always, always remember. A mix of taps, building to strong declarations, ending with persistent triple taps on always and remember. A final, powerful affirmation. The message was a journey. It wasn't just a secret note. It was the story of a man's soul, told in increments through the very medium that made him immortal. It revealed a deep spirituality, a man who yearned for genuine connection, a gentle soul beneath the swaggering persona. Lena felt a profound responsibility. This was not just data. This was a human being's deepest feelings, revealed decades after his passing. She knew that this discovery would change how people perceived Elvis Presley, humanizing him in a way that biographies rarely achieve. It would allow fans to connect with him on a deeply personal, emotional level. The estate decided on a multifaceted approach for the unveiling. A special exhibit at Graceland, an immersive digital experience online, and a documentary film that would delve into the science behind the discovery and the emotional impact of the message. Lena was asked to be a key part of the documentary to explain the AI's role in her own journey of discovery. She was nervous about the public exposure, but the importance of the message overshadowed her anxieties. This was bigger than her. She reflected on how much she had learned, not just about AI or audio analysis, but about the human spirit, about resilience, and about the quiet ways people communicate their deepest truths. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, had left behind a secret testament of his soul, waiting for the right moment and the right technology to be found. As they finalized the last details for the public announcement, Lena listened to "Can't Help Falling in Love," one of the songs where the message was particularly clear in its gentle, loving tone. The faint thump-tap after "Some Things Are Meant to Be" felt like a direct confirmation, a whisper from the past reaching out to the present. The full picture was almost ready for the world to see, and Lena knew it would touch hearts in ways no one could predict. The King's final secret performance was about to begin. The day of the official announcement at Graceland was a whirlwind. Journalists from around the world gathered eager for the big news the Presley estate had teased. Lena, usually at home in the quiet hum of the lab, found herself standing beside Dr. Thorne and Lisa, Marie Presley facing a sea of cameras and microphones. Lena felt a tremor of nerves, but also a profound sense of purpose. This wasn't about fame. It was about sharing something truly beautiful. "Lisa," Marie began, speaking with quiet dignity about her father's enduring legacy and his deeply private nature. She then introduced Dr. Thorne, who explained the scientific breakthrough of Project Melody, the AI capable of detecting patterns beyond human perception. He showed visual data, spectrograms, and the undeniable statistical proof of the ring tap phenomenon. Then it was Lena's turn. She spoke about her initial hunch, the painstaking process of isolating each thump tap, and the moment she realized it was a deliberate coded message. She explained the ring tap punctuation system and the chronological unveiling of the message fragments. "What we discovered," Lena said, her voice clear and strong despite her pounding heart, "was not a single note, not a forgotten lyric, but an entire continuous message woven throughout his recorded career, a secret journal, a testament of his heart, hidden in plain sight for over 50 years. She then played the first audio example, a raw, amplified snippet of a thump tap from Heartbreak Hotel. The journalist leaned in, mesmerized. She played another from Suspicious Minds, demonstrating the different rhythmic emphasis. "This is not a conspiracy theory," Lena emphasized. "This is scientific fact. supported by overwhelming data, and the message itself, we believe, reveals the true inner voice of Elvis Presley. Then, for the first time, a repeated segment of the message was revealed. Not the entire 2,500 words, but a powerful montage of key phrases set against a backdrop of Elvis's music. With the subtle ring taps audible, the emotional impact was immediate and palpable. Gasps rippled through the audience. Some reporters, tough and cynical, visibly wiped away tears. It was raw, authentic, and undeniably Elvis. It was the man, not the myth, speaking directly from his soul. Lisa Marie stepped forward again, her voice thick with emotion. This message, it's my father. It's truly him. It's the private man, the spiritual man, the loving man. He always said he wanted to leave something meaningful behind, something that would connect with people on a deeper level. And he did. He truly did. Was it for a specific person? How could no one have found it before? What does this mean for his legacy? Lena and Dr. Thorne answered patiently, emphasizing the role of the AI, the impossibility of human detection, and the universal nature of the message. It's a message of enduring hope, love, and authenticity, Lena reiterated, testament to the human spirit, shared by a man who touched millions. The news exploded globally. Every major news outlet carried the story. Social media was flooded with discussions, emotional reactions, and renewed appreciation for Elvis. Fans old and new listened to his songs with fresh ears, searching for the subtle ring taps, hearing the hidden whispers for the first time. The initial reactions were overwhelmingly positive. People were deeply moved by the vulnerability and raw emotion of the message. It humanized Elvis, making him feel closer, more relatable, like a friend sharing a profound secret. Lena and Dr. Thorne became minor celebrities overnight. They were invited to thump-taps, TV shows, and scientific conferences. But for Lena, the true reward was seeing the impact of the message itself. Messages poured into their lab's public inbox, sharing stories of how the discovery had touched them, helped them grieve, or inspired them. One elderly woman wrote, "I was a young girl when Elvis first came out. I loved his music, but I always felt there was something more, something deeper behind his eyes. Now I know what it was. He was speaking to me, to all of us, all along." A young musician wrote, "I always respected Elvis, but never felt truly connected. Hearing this hidden message, knowing he put so much of his actual soul into his recordings, has given me a whole new approach into my music." The message wasn't just a historical packet. It was a living, breathing testament that continued to inspire and heal. Lena felt a deep satisfaction. She had given Elvis the King a final, profound encore. The Elvis's Hidden Message exhibit at Graceland opened to record crowds. Visitors walked through immersive soundscapes where the ring taps were subtly amplified, and the phrases of the message appeared on screens, chronologically weaving the story of his inner life. It was a pilgrimage for many, a chance to connect with Elvis on a level never before possible. The documentary, titled The King's Whisper, proclaimed to critical acclaim. Lena, once a quiet AI researcher, found herself on television, explaining the science and sharing the profound emotional journey of uncovering the message. She spoke with a newfound confidence, passionate about the impact of her work. The effect on Elvis Presley's legacy was profound. The perception of him shifted from a larger-than-life icon to a deeply complex, sensitive, and profoundly human artist. His songs, already timeless, gained new layers of meaning. Fans listened with a new reverence, feeling a direct, intimate connection to his soul through the quiet thump taps. Lena's life had changed too. She was no longer just working on algorithms. She was a storyteller, a bridge between technology and humanity, between the past and the present. Her success brought new funding to Project Melody, allowing them to explore other artists, other historical recordings, wondering what other hidden messages might be waiting to be found. One quiet afternoon, back in the lab, Lena sat alone, listening to Elvis's "How Great Thou Art." The powerful gospel anthem filled the room. Midway through at the line, "Then sings my soul, my Savior, God to thee," she heard it clearly. A strong triple ring tap, a declaration, a profound exclamation mark on his faith. It still gave her chills. She thought about Elvis, the man who had lived a life of extraordinary fame and immense pressure. He had found a way to share his truest self, his most vulnerable thoughts, without ever speaking them aloud to the public. He had used his art, his hands, and the very act of creation to leave behind a testament to his soul. The message wasn't about fame or money or even just music. It was about connection. It was about leaving a part of himself behind that was pure and unfiltered. It was about enduring love and hope whispered across decades, waiting for someone to finally listen. Lena often reflected on the power of the invisible, the unseen. How a tiny, almost imperceptible sound repeated thousands of times could hold such a vast and beautiful secret. How technology, often seen as cold and impersonal, could be used to unlock such a deeply human truth. She thought about her grandmother, who would have been thrilled to hear Elvis's secret message. Lena felt a sense of connection, not just to Elvis, but to her own family's history, to the countless fans who had loved him, and to the universal human need to be truly seen and understood. The discovery had been heartwarming in every sense of the word. It had opened hearts, healed old wounds, and offered a new, more tender lens through which to view one of the greatest legends of all time. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the lab, Lena smiled. Her work was far from over. There were more whispers to find, more hidden truths to uncover. But for now, the whisper of the king had been heard, and the world was a little warmer, a little more connected because of it. Elvis Presley, the man, had truly spoken, not through a song, but in the song, leaving a legacy of authentic heart that would now resonate forever.